Hello everyone, it's your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with another exciting video. In this video I'm going to be talking about how was my day yesterday, July 5th, 2020, and what are my plans for today, July 6th, 2020. If you guys want to talk about anything with me, definitely feel free to leave comments in the comment section below and to hit us up on our Discord, link available in the description box below. Without further ado, let's get started. So I made a new Red Eyes Black Dragon Rush Duel deck and a new Dark Magician Rush Duel deck. I tested both of my decks against John Mason. If you guys want to see those matches against John Mason, feel free to click on the links in the description. They will take you to the respective videos. Right now, I feel like spellcasters are just really good in Yu-Gi-Oh Rush Duels. Here is a screenshot of my Red Eyes Black Dragon deck that I made, which I think is like not really the best. I don't really think Red Eyes Black Dragon has enough support to make him feel super viable. Here is a screenshot of my Dark Magician deck. Dark Magician feels fine, like it doesn't feel like there's anything about him that's necessarily like broken or not good. It's just that I don't think it's a good deck because Dark Magician's in it. I think it's a good deck because it's just a spellcaster deck in Rush Duels. I think spellcasters just have the most support right now. And the main reason why I feel like spellcaster decks are so good is because they have cards like Mystic Dealer. Mystic Dealer, he requires that you send one spellcaster type monster from your hand to the graveyard and lets you draw one card. And what's cool about that is that whenever you have Mystic Dealer in your hand and you're playing a deck that's all spellcasters, it's really easy for you to fuel plays by playing Mystic Dealer. Because not only does he allow you to put monsters in your graveyard, and many effects in Rush Duels are based on what types of monsters you have in your graveyard and how many you have in your graveyard, and your ability to shuffle them back into the deck in order to activate other effects. So Mystic Dealer helps set up graveyard plays, and he helps fuel your hand. And because in Yu-Gi-Oh Rush Duels, you have as many normal summons and tribute summons as you want, you can then tribute Mystic Dealer to set up like another play, like to summon like a higher level monster, so then that puts like another spellcaster type monster in your graveyard, which sets up even more graveyard plays. Like Mystic Dealer is just a really good card, and I feel like he's part of the reason why spellcasters are so good. Another really good spellcaster type monster in Yu-Gi-Oh Rush Duels, well, it's not a monster, but another like spellcaster support card in Yu-Gi-Oh Rush Duels would have to be Recovery Force. So Recovery Force allows you to shuffle 3 monsters, specifically spellcaster type monsters, from your graveyard into the deck in order to draw 1 card. And Mystic Dealer allows you to essentially put in 2 of the 3 spellcaster type monsters you need in order to activate Recovery Force. Like, it allows you to put those monsters in the graveyard so that you can satisfy the conditions of Recovery Force. So more often than not, I'm able to play Mystic Dealer and play Recovery Force in the same turn, which allows you to draw 2 cards within the same turn. And in Rush Duels, you already, during your draw phase, draw until you have 5 cards in hand. So you already are playing a game where you're rapidly drawing cards from your deck. And then spellcasters specifically have these cards, Mystic Dealer and Recovery Force, that allow you to then take advantage of that and draw even more cards from your deck that also help you fuel additional plays. So I just think spellcasters are good, and that the dragon decks that I've built, I think, suffer from the fact that they don't have support that's as good as Recovery Force and that's as good as Mystic Dealer when it comes to like feeding your hand. But that's my 2 cents on Yu-Gi-Oh Rush Duels right now. Yesterday I made a pretty crazy video about a weird Facebook group. If you guys want to check that video out, I have a link to it in the description box below. Also, I've been thinking about this. I think it's weird that the XMen aren't involved in the Ironman 2020 event. So, Ironman 2020 is a powerful story that advocates for sentient AI rights and tells the tale of a robot revolution in the Marvel Universe. This fight for sentient AI rights within the Marvel Universe has been steadily developing since Avengers AI, which was a comic run that started back in 2013 and was developed further in Tony Stark Iron Man in 2018, and is finally boiling over into this robot rebellion, this robot revolution during the events of Iron Man 2020. And Iron Man 2020 isn't just one comic, it's an event. It's spread out among multiple books. It's going on in Iron Man 2020, it's going on in Machine Man 2020, it's going on in Forceworks 2020, it's going on in Rescue 2020, it's going on in Iron Age, it's going on in Ironheart 2020, it's going on in I, Wolverine. If you're reading any of these books, all of these books are talking about like the Robot Rebellion. I just said the Robot Rebellion because it is the Robot Revolution, but it's also the Robot Rebellion. All of these books are talking about that. All of these books are covering like sentient AI rights and what it means for sentient AI to have rights and what the world is like now and how people can just abuse robots. And it's a wonderful story. If you know me, you know that I highly advocate the idea that sentient AI do deserve rights, especially the right not to be tortured. That's the main right that I think sentient AI should have. And Iron Man 2020 is a great event that like explores this further in the Marvel Comics universe. And like I mentioned, we've been exploring this for 7 years. If you've been reading Marvel Comics for the last 7 years, there have been continual runs that are talking about this concept within the Marvel Comics universe. So this is a pretty big deal. And I've been reading all of those books. Like I read all of Avengers AI. I read most of Tony Stark Iron Man around when War of the Realms was going on, which was like a big event that kind of wrapped what was going on in Thor with essentially everything else in the Marvel Comics universe. That interrupted Tony Stark Iron Man, and I don't think I finished reading Tony Stark Iron Man. Like it started being about War of the Realms, and then I was like, oh, I kind of don't care. Because sure, Tony's going to fight a dragon or something, whatever. Take it back to the sentient AI rights stuff. So I fell off the Tony Stark Iron Man. I should probably go back and finish that, but I'm caught up on Iron Man 2020. Like I've been reading all of Iron Man 2020, and it's really good. I highly recommend it. My girlfriend read Iron Age, and she understands now why I care so much about sentient AI rights, and she also agrees that sentient AI deserve the right not to be tortured. Before, she wasn't so sure about why I cared about sentient AI rights. She read that book, and it like clicked. Really good series. Highly recommend it. Please check out Iron Man 2020. So, the thing I feel weird about when it comes to Iron Man 2020 is the fact that the X-Men are nowhere to be found. I know I mentioned that there's a book called I, Wolverine. That's about a robot named Albert who's like a robot version of Wolverine who's sentient, who's actually an established Marvel superhero character who I wasn't aware of until this Iron Man 2020 event, but he's actually really cool. He's like a good example of a sentient AI superhero in the Marvel Comics universe. But anyways, let me explain why I think it's weird that the X-Men aren't getting involved in this. So in the latest X-Men run, which started with like House of X and Powers of X, and now we're in Dawn of X, the X-Men are trying to stop technology from advancing to the point where it can wipe out mutant kind. Like that's like the main idea of the story. Moira McTaggart is a mutant who has the power to restart her life from infancy whenever she is killed, while retaining the memories of all of her past lives. And she is aware of the fact that in every timeline she's lived through, that machines eventually evolve to a point where they wipe out the mutant race and assimilate all of humanity. And this is something that she's let Charles Xavier know. This is something that she's let Magneto know. This is something that the X-Men are aware of. They know that they need to stop the machines from hitting like a certain point in technological development so that they can prevent themselves from being wiped out. Like their fight against the machines is against what they believe to be an assured extinction, right? So with this in mind, also considering the fact that the X-Men are now global and that they're all like allied with all their different villains, because there's so much that you have to explain with X-Men. But with this in mind, it seems really weird that the X-Men have no involvement in the literal global revolution of sentient machines. Like, for one, Even if the X-Men weren't global, like even if they weren't all over the world, because the robot revolution is global, they would still probably want to get involved, because the uprising of machines sounds like the main thing that they would be against, like the biggest thing that they would want to stop, because they know that machines advancing is what leads to their extinction. And since the X-Men have allied with all their different like mutants that they would normally be against, like Mr. Sinister, who's normally like a bad guy, and like Apocalypse, who's normally a bad guy, and like Magneto and like the Brotherhood of Mutants, who are normally bad guys, and even like Emma Frost and the Hellfire Club, all the mutants are now working together as a part of one nation called Krakoa. And they have this island nation with portals to said nation all over the world. So the X-Men are global, they can easily travel wherever they want in the world, and they're not fighting each other. The mutants are all working together for the common goal of stopping the machines from wiping them out. So why wouldn't they get involved in a global event where sentient machines are like rising against like the people and demanding rights? Wouldn't a robot revolution be the main thing that you would be afraid of? I just don't get it. It seems like this should be just as much an X-Men event as it is an Iron Man event. And I think it would be extremely interesting to see the X-Men get involved, because the X-Men are always portrayed as a group that is constantly fighting for rights, respect, and equality. But in this case, they would be oppressing the rights of the machines to defend themselves against what they believe to be their otherwise assured extinction. Like, the X-Men would be put in a position where essentially they would be like the bad guys from the perspective of the sentient AI. And while it would be them oppressing this robot revolution, at the same time, in their minds, it's like, if we don't do this, you know, eventually the robots will rise up over mankind and assimilate mankind and then destroy all mutants. So yeah, like, I hope, since Iron Man 2020, the event isn't over yet, that the X-Men do get involved. But the event has been going on for a bit, and it's weird that the X-Men haven't come up as of yet. Like I said, it's literally about them trying to fight off against the future where the robots wipe them all out. And they know this. It's really confusing. Just saying. I've been reading Dawn of X, and I've been specifically focusing on the Marauders, which I think are really cool. So the Marauders are an X-Men group that focus on traveling the world and helping mutants who aren't allowed to travel through the portals to Krakoa. Essentially, these mutants live in nations where the nations aren't okay with the Krakoan portals, so they're like guarding them and shooting anyone who comes through the portals, and also stopping anyone who tries to enter the portals. So the Marauders straight up sail around the world and then travel to these areas, and they're like, any mutants who want to go to Krakoa, like, get on this boat. Like, we'll just take you to Krakoa. And a lot of times they end up having to fight the governments of those places that are like, no, you can't just leave. We're not gonna like just let you leave. And I feel like it leads to a lot of interesting conflicts. Plus, Kitty Pryde is a badass. Not only does she have a dragon, but the crazy amount of combat skill she has and her ability to like run directly through gunfire and let it just phase through her body while also still like holding weapons, and her ability to like phase weapons into people and then just leave the weapons inside of their body. She does so many wild things in Marauders. It's a spectacle. Like, it's worth checking out. And then Excalibur is really cool. So Excalibur is an X-Men book that explores mutants and their connection to magic, which is something I never really thought about before. Like, apparently, people who practice magic from this otherworldly reality where, like, the stories of King Arthur are real and are, like, actively playing out, they don't have a word for mutants, because they don't have, like, They don't have the same concept of like genetics. So the people of Camelot call mutants witch breed. And it's not that they're calling them witches, because they understand that it's not the same as magic, but because they don't have a word for mutant, they're like, you are a witch breed. And I thought that was interesting. But it's also interesting to see how there is a history of mutants practicing magic, and that it's something that normally isn't really explored in the Marvel universe. Like, a lot of times, you either are a mutant or you are like a magic user. And there are instances where there's crossover, like you have like Scarlet Witch and how she practices like chaos magic, but I don't think it's too heavily explored, but that's essentially what Excalibur is about. So I've definitely been enjoying reading that. So moving past that, let's see. Oh, so I've been talking a lot about yesterday. Let me talk a little bit about today. So Steak and Shake's milkshake machine was broken. So when I woke up, I didn't wake up to a nice milkshake. Instead, I ordered a smoothie from Smoothie King, and my eyes have been opened to how good Smoothie King is. You can order a 40-ounce custom Smoothie King smoothie with no delivery fee, no service fee, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. for less than $14 with Dash Pass. I ordered a smoothie this morning. Let me scroll up. I ordered this shake. I believe it's called a Peanut Power Plus Chocolate, and I substituted the banana for strawberry, so it was like a chocolate strawberry peanut butter smoothie. The combination was perfect. The size was better than any offering from any of these other like restaurants. So good, exactly what I wanted, delivered within like a timely manner. Amazing. No other place that's like selling shakes allows you to order something so early in the day. Props to that. Very hyped for my smoothie tomorrow. I hope it's just as good, if not better, than the smoothie that I had today. Shout out to Smoothie King. Amazing. Props to the chef. Okay, so I talked with my friends today about how I don't really think I really want kids in the future, and how at the moment I'm happy with living on my own. For the longest time, I like either lived with my parents or I lived in like a college dorm with roommates, and now that I have my own apartment, I like being able to just live on my own with no roommates, and I don't have to worry about like what other people are doing, people coming in and out, people being like messy or anything. I keep my apartment clean. I do what I want in my apartment when I want to do it with like no restriction. And now, of course, since I've been working full time since I graduated last year, I've now been with my job for a little over a year. That's pretty good. I didn't think about that until just now, but I started working full time July 3rd of last year, and now it's July 6th, so it's like 3 days after my work anniversary. But having worked full-time for over a year, I like being able to spend my money the way that I want to. I don't spend money very often, and I like being able to have like these little luxuries. Like if I want to wake up in the morning and get like a Smoothie King smoothie, I can wake up in the morning and have a Smoothie King smoothie delivered to my door super early, like if I want to. If I want to buy like the latest PlayStation 4 game, I can buy the latest PlayStation 4 game if that's what I want to. If I want to get like an external hard drive for my laptop, I can throw money at that. Bills come in, I'm never worried about bills. I'm never like, do I have enough money to pay bills? I feel financially stable, financially comfortable. I'm comfortable like in my space. I'm enjoying life. And I don't see how anything would change between now and when I'm like 30, or now when I'm like 40, that would make me go, I want to sacrifice all that to have like a kid. I'm cool with no kids for like the foreseeable future. If you were to ask me right now, will my mind change on the subject? Who knows? But right now, I'll be right back. The gum that I'm chewing has turned directly into powder. Be right back. Sorry about the wait. I really need to get fresh gum before I start doing these videos. But I end up starting the video up after I've already chewed on gum for a little bit. So then I always have to partway through these videos get up and spit the gum out. I don't know why, but if I chew on gum long enough, it turns to dust just in my mouth. So then I have to like go and spit it out because it starts getting gross, and it makes it harder for you to just chew it, so it tries to like go down your throat. So while I'll talk, it'll like mess me up as I'm talking. But also, the flavor goes from just being like, oh, the gum has become flavorless, to it actually just tastes bad. So I'm glad that I spit that gum out. Anyways, like I was saying before, I don't see myself wanting kids in the foreseeable future. We'll see if that like matters or not, like in the near future, I guess. Today, I discussed and enjoyed with Ryan a number of philosophical arguments. We talked about all kinds of stuff. We talked about how truth and facts are synonymous statements, but some people like to act like if enough people believe something is true, that it is true, but that's not really the case. Like there's a definition of truth that says it's just something that plenty of people accept as true, whether or not it is or isn't actually true. I just don't agree with that definition. And Ryan and I talked about that for a bit. We talked about how if matter cannot be created or destroyed, it simply just transforms from like matter to energy. Even when matter and like antimatter collide, it still is just being transformed into energy. That doesn't really explain where matter and energy like come from. Like if they can't be created or destroyed, is that implying that they like always existed? And is it even possible for things to just always exist? Like for things to exist without having been created at any point in time? And we also talked about like, is it possible for there to be like a true beginning of time? Like the idea that like time didn't always exist? Because if time doesn't always exist, then how do like other things always exist? You know, there are a whole bunch of questions that we talked about, and we had a lot of fun discussing them. Oh, I received a Fiverr gig for a superhero story, so I'm going to work on that today and read some comic books. So the Fiverr gig that I received was to write a story that takes place in the country Qatar about a teenage guy in high school who's named Khalid. And Khalid discovers that he has the ability to control sand, and because he lives in Qatar, there's like a lot of sand in the area, so he has a lot that he can manipulate and control. But Khalid isn't that smart, and he doesn't really like to study, but he has a friend named Ali who's a genius who dreams of one day building a robot. And as a part of my story, I need to explain how Khalid got his powers. I need to establish like a villain for Khalid, who uses his abilities for evil so that Khalid can fight him. And then I need to make sure that I read up on Qatar and their culture so I can incorporate cultural elements into the story. But I'm pretty excited about that, and that's probably what I'm going to be doing like most of today. Today is my last day on vacation, so after today I'm going to be back to work. But that also means that today is only going to be like a 4-day work week, because I'll only work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So that's not bad. Like even though my vacation's over, your vacation ends, and then you just have a shorter week to work anyways. So it all works out. But anyways, now I have some questions for you. How was your day yesterday? What are your plans for today? What do you think of the latest Yu-Gi-Oh Rush Duel cards? Do you think the X-Men should be involved in the Ironman 2020 event? Are there any X-Men comics that I mentioned today that you would want to check out? What's your opinion on Smoothie King? And would you order delivery smoothies? What's your opinion on like family and the idea of like getting older and whether or not you should or shouldn't have kids? When it comes to the Fiverr Gig superhero story, does that sound interesting to you? What are some of your ideas? Like if you were hired to do this Fiverr Gig, like, how would you approach developing the story and playing with these characters? And have you had any philosophical discussions recently that you would like to discuss further, like together? Feel free to answer any and all of these questions in the comment section below, and I'm down to discuss any of these questions further on our Discord. You can check out the link in the description if you want to check out our Discord. But I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you guys like this video, make sure to smash that like button, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding ding, ring the notification bell to be notified whenever we do these videos. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jeff Black, the one and only, logging out. Peace, guys. Check it the gal.